So the House of Representatives passed a resolution condemning the political assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk by a radical leftist terrorist, and 58 Democrats refused to support this resolution, unapologetically, with no remorse. And a South Carolina representative, James Clyburn, actually went on CNN to explain a little bit of his reasoning for why he did not support this resolution. And we're going to talk about this, but before we do, my name is Blake Cresses, and this is Trending Politics. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to stay up to date with all political news. So we're still in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder, his assassination, and the immense levels of celebration, and at best, apathy from the radical left and their refusal to take responsibility for how their incendiary rhetoric has led to untold numbers of terrorist attacks. We're seeing more and more literally every single day. There was just a shooting at an ICE facility. There was a shooting at an ABC production studio after Jimmy Kimmel got pulled. And these people are insane. And the politicians, the leaders, are not condemning it. They're not doing anything about it. They're not toning down their rhetoric whatsoever. If anything, they just turn it around and blame it on either the right wing or the victims, as in the case with Charlie Kirk. And we're going to see Representative Clyburn use a lot of the disgusting lies, the deceit, the misrepresentations of Charlie Kirk's beliefs and his arguments, calling him racist, calling him a fascist, whatever. We've seen it all before, and this is going to continue for a very long time, and we have to push back against it as hard as we can. Jasmine Crockett, we're not going to go over this video, but I just want to talk about it because Representative Jasmine Crockett, she was giving some sort of statement or a speech somewhere, and she was lamenting how only 2 white representatives out of the entire House of Representatives voted against the resolution condemning Charlie Kirk. She was disappointed and angry that so many Caucasians, so many white representatives would support Charlie Kirk. What does this tell you about her beliefs towards white people in general, let alone conservatives or Christians, but white people in general? Unbelievable stuff. Anyways, we're going to check out what Representative Clyburn had to say and the disgusting lies that he spread on CNN. We're going to check it out.
I'll tell you one thing we do know, though, is that when Melissa Hortman, the Speaker of the Minnesota Legislature, was shot, there was a commemorative resolution in the Congress, and every Republican voted for it.
Right.
When Charlie Kirk was assassinated for his political beliefs, there were 58 Democrats who would not vote for a resolution to honor him. So
and I was one of them.
Why do you think it was?
I don't mind honoring anybody's life. I've got a problem with their legacy. And I know what the legacy of Kirk was. When I turn on my TV and I see someone telling me what an awful person Martin Luther King Jr. was, when I see somebody telling me if I get on an airplane and there's a black pilot, I begin to wonder, is he qualified? What does that mean? Those are the words that came out of his mouth.
That's not what he said. And
that is exactly what he said. I got the exact quote.
It's not in context at all what he was talking about. It was a conversation about affirmative action. You know that, Congressman. This has been well litigated and well debated.
Everything about black people is about affirmative action. And so what's wrong with affirmative action?
No.
Look, you're telling me that when I came out of college and couldn't get a job, that was because I was not qualified?
That's not what I'm saying.
But what are you saying?
What I'm saying is Charlie Kirk was very clear. If these companies openly say that they have to somehow fill a quota of people, whether it be a race or gender, not based on merit, but based on their race or gender, the obvious should be clear to everyone, which is that person then qualified?
So
that's an obvious question. Because of the bar that the corporation itself set up by saying publicly, we're going to do this type of DEI hiring, then you have to wonder, is it because of their race or their gender?
Can I just that's not what it is. Hold on, that's not what it is. Hogan, why would you have to wonder? Yeah, I mean, why would you have to wonder that? The only reason you would wonder that is if you're inclined to believe that nobody can be qualified if they are black and brown going into those roles.
And also,
but here's one other thing that I think is just a factual dispute with what you're describing. You're suggesting that the standards are lower for people of color filling these roles when there is absolutely
The exact opposite.
no evidence.
The exact opposite.
No, but that's what you said.
No, it isn't.
Hold on, Hogan. You said that they are only getting these jobs because of their race or gender.
That's not what I
and
said.
not because they are qualified.
Not
so
what
are
I
they
said.
qualified or not?
That's not what I said.
Are they qualified or not?
What I said was
is a pilot sitting in a hold on, Hogan, is a pilot sitting on an airplane, flying a plane, whether he's black or white or a woman or gay or lesbian, if they are sitting in that seat and they meet the FAA requirements for being in that seat, are they qualified?
If they are qualified, I sure hope so.
Are they? But you don't believe that they're qualified
because
of what?
That's not what I said. What I said was if the criteria was their race or gender,
yeah,
then
but
how am I to know
that's
if the
why
qualification
I'm telling you, Hogan,
is there?
That
we
is
had
a
a president of the United States.
Error that
we
you
had
are
a
making.
president of the
Hold
United
on,
States,
Hogan,
and
I
Joe
don't want
Biden,
you to,
who came out and said
Hogan, you're
he
changing.
wanted a,
listen, I don't want you to change the subject
woman
because
of
you are
color
making
to be the vice president. So when I noticed
Hogan,
that's what he said, that's not my fault.
Hold on, my
Joe
friend.
Biden said it.
You were in the White House when Donald Trump said he was going to put a woman on the Supreme Court, and then he picked Amy Coney Barrett. Is she not qualified?
She is extremely qualified.
Okay, so why is she qualified, but Ketanji Brown Jackson is not?
He talked about the qualification as well. What I'm saying is, in that clear directive from Joe Biden, in the clear directive from those companies, they are saying we are filling a quota.
Let me ask.
They're not even saying filling
I'm
a quota.
going to ask you again because I think you have another opportunity to really think this through. Donald Trump said, "I am going to pick a woman to go on the Supreme Court." Oh, you know what? Let me give you another one.
So should he not have
George H.W. Bush said, "I am going to pick I'm going to pick a black man to fill a role on the Supreme Court." Are those people unqualified?
I want always the most qualified people to hold those jobs.
Are they qualified or not?
It depends on their
Was it a
qualification.
quota or not?
It's always a quota when you base it on race or gender.
Brown
if you base it on qualification, if the person is hired as black or a woman or whatever, it doesn't matter. That's
Let
the
me just ask you a direct question.
It's the ultimate meritocracy.
Is it okay for Donald Trump to have DEI quotas or not?
It's not okay for anyone to have DEI quotas.
So then why did he have a DEI quota, by your definition, for Amy Coney Barrett?
He didn't. He said that was one of the selections. People said he should fill it with a woman.
Okay. He said he was going to fill it with a woman, and he did.
He did not only interview women for the job.
Correct.
Okay.
So
I'm sure Joe Biden didn't only interview men for black women for the job.
Joe Biden had said as he went in his search process, his short list would be all women of color,
and they were.
Listen,
and they were qualified.
That's not true.
They were qualified.
We're taking issue with the criteria.
I just think it's you guys are misleading. I'm not gonna say you're lying. I'm just gonna say you're misleading about what Donald Trump said. The day after, Justice Ginsburg died, he said he was going to pick a woman to replace her. He said that. Okay, I'm not paraphrasing. That is what he said.
By that standard, he should not have issued that as a criteria.
All right.
All right. One more thing. Justice Thomas, who I'm sure you love. You love him, right?
Sure.
He was chosen to replace a black Supreme Court justice, in part because he was a black man. Who is more qualified in terms of actual experience to be on the court, him or Ketanji Brown Jackson? Do you know?
I don't know if any of them.
Okay. Well, I've checked. She served as a federal judge for way longer. He actually didn't before she was put on the Supreme Court.
No, false. He was on the D.C. Court of Appeals, the second highest court in the land.
She served.
Recommended by the Bar Association. You cannot besmirch
he was on there for a very brief period of time.
The second
she
highest
served as a judge.
We have never considered any nominee for Supreme Court who was on the D.C. Court of Appeals to be unqualified for the Supreme Court.
I am not suggesting.
Never, ever has that been said.
I am not suggesting.
You're saying Clarence Thomas was not qualified?
I'm not. Actually, no, I am not.
You just
I am
said
not
he was
suggesting
not
that
qualified.
he's unqualified at all.
You did.
I am saying that he is qualified just the way that Ketanji Brown Jackson is qualified, just the way that Amy Coney Barrett is qualified.
No, you said he was less qualified than Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I'm asking you.
That's what you
I'm
said.
saying about comparing their resumes. If you want to compare their resumes,
he was less
one of the
qualified
things
than
that
her.
Charlie Kirk said was that Ketanji Brown Jackson, if she says that she was affirmative action pick, then what she is saying is that she didn't have the brain processing power to get that job without replacing a white man.
Look,
But I'm asking you, if you objectively look at her resume, is that a factual statement?
Oh, she's qualified for the Supreme Court.
Okay, so then
of
let's leave
course.
it at that. Because I just
She's
think
not very good at her job, but she's qualified.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Because we want to make a lot of broad
But
statements about
according
who's
to
qualified
Kirk, she
and
was a
who's not.
diversity hire.
Say that again?
That's what he said.
Yeah.
That she, Katanji, was a diversity hire.
I want to go back to this all started when we were talking about
I got 12
whether
of
or
his
not,
quotes right here.
whether or not Democrats should have voted to honor Charlie Kirk's life. And Congressman, I respect you. You are a living legend. I deeply respect your motives. However, I think that this is a question of whether we honor people who gave their life to public service. I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk on everything.
Okay.
But he gave his life to public service.
I'll let you have the last word on this. Go ahead.
But let me just say this. His life is one thing, his legacy is another. Now, I honor everybody's life. But when you tell me that was a diversity hire, when you tell me you're going to give thought to whether or not a black pilot is qualified, something else is going on in your head, and that's a legacy that I will never vote to honor. So if they're taking legacy off, which we asked them to do, and just honor his life, you got my vote. But his legacy, I know what my father's inherited from the legacy of the South.
Well, that was a little difficult to watch. I don't know about you guys, but man, was that annoying. First thing I'll say is that Representative South Carolina really needs to just simply gerrymander him out of a seat. Doesn't make any sense why he would be representing any part of South Carolina whatsoever. Second thing I'll say is that Martin Luther King Jr. was in fact a terrible person. Number one, he was a heretic. Number two, he was a repeat adulterer, supposedly a rapist, supposedly abused women. Pretty much confirmed that if he's not a rapist himself, he was present during a rape and cheered it on. One of his friends raped somebody. Horrible, horrible man. Truly a stain on our country, the fact that so many people look up to him to such a high degree. But then moving on, this is where I get to the point. I don't trust a word Democrats say. The reason for that is that I don't believe anyone can be stupid enough to make the points they make. I just have to assume that they're lying. And this is the case with this video. They know the critique. They know the critique that Charlie Kirk is making. They understand his point. It's very possible that they could just be that stupid, but they know exactly what he's saying, which is when these corporations place race as a higher qualifier than skill, than proficiency at your job, than ability, if they're going to use that as a more important metric, they're going to use race as a more important metric than all the others, then yeah, I'd be concerned about who's flying my plane, because they're making being black the biggest qualifier. Now, it's not to say that these people aren't going to be, proficient at their jobs. They very well may be. But how are we supposed to know that? You're getting on the plane. What I do know is that these companies place race as a higher metric, a more important metric than ability, merit. It's a big problem, especially when you've got the lives of 300 or so people. I don't know how many people can fit on an airplane, but however many people fit on an airplane, you got all their lives in that person's hands. Skill, merit, ability, those need to be the top metrics. And then they moved into a Supreme Court discussion. I don't know. It got a little bit off topic from Charlie Kirk, which is the real focal point of this time period, really, considering the heinous attack. But this is what we're dealing with. And I'm glad they brought up Melissa Hortman earlier, because Democrats, since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Democrats have loved bringing up this basically unknown Minnesota state representative, Melissa Hortman, who was assassinated by a former Tim Walz appointee who had a stack of No Kings flyers in his car, and who supposedly said that Tim Walz instructed him to murder not only Melissa Hortman, but also Amy Klobuchar, so that Tim Walz could seize the Senate seat. Now, look, that's just his words. I'm not saying anything. That's just the words of the actual assassin. I'm not making any definitive statements here, but they call this guy a right-winger and say that it was right-wing terrorism. There's just simply no evidence for it. But all that to say, when Melissa Hortman was executed, it's terrible. And I will add one more thing, actually, because Democrats, Melissa Hortman before she had been assassinated, had just voted against and was the deciding vote for a legislation that would have allotted state funds to healthcare and other social services for illegal aliens. She voted against that. Away from her party, the rest of the Democrats voted in lockstep to fund healthcare for illegals with taxpayer dollars. She voted against that, and it failed. So, Democrats were not exactly happy with her. But all that to say, when Melissa Hortman was executed, you didn't see Republicans cheering. You didn't see Republicans celebrating. No one knew who she was. People have been targeting Charlie Kirk forever. We've seen this. We see the social media videos. No one knew who Melissa Hortman was. But they bring up Melissa Hortman, to say, oh, violence exists on all sides. Maybe. I mean, we don't know what that Tim Walz appointee's political beliefs were. But anyways, every single Republican voted to condemn the assassination, voted to honor her. 58 Democrats refused to do the same for Charlie Kirk. Why? Because they don't care. They are happy. They, like so many of their voters, like the millions of regular Democrats, your friends, your family, your neighbors, doctors, lawyers, professors, who we saw on social media publicly with their government names and their faces shown, mocking and celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. These representatives, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Clyburn, they're all the same. They're happy about it. They can lie. They're going to shed their crocodile tears. But they understand who their friends and who their enemies are. And we know how they feel about unborn babies. It's the same way they feel about us. If we're inconvenient to them, we got to go. And it doesn't matter. Our lives don't matter. These people hate us and they want us dead. Anyways, with that, thank you so much for watching. My name is Blake Cresses, and this has been Trending Politics. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to stay up to date with all political news. You can follow me on X or Instagram at Blake Cresses. My name's right there at the bottom left of your screen if you need help with spelling. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.